All right, we are live. This is the Tesla Beat podcast. We have our usual suspects, Joe from San Joaquin Valley, and of course, Jeff Lutz. We are waiting. It looks like Amy actually just joined. Here she is.
Yeah, I heard you say hopefully Amy will join us soon. I'm like, I'm here, but you can't hear
Yeah.
me.
Well, perfect timing. So yeah, we have all of our full cast today. And obviously there is never a dull moment in the Tesla world. Tons of Cybertruck sightings. The stock is a little bit soft this week. But just tons of things happening. Also too, Elon meeting the prime minister from India, and just a bunch of stuff happening, which we will get into. We're going to quickly. We are about, I believe, a month away from the largest run Tesla community event, and I'm bringing in a special friend. Also, he serves as our vice president of Tesla under Silicon Valley, and he's the executive director, and he's planning the whole thing for the Tesla takeover. So let's bring in Kelvin. How's it going, Kelvin?
Hey, going well.
Well, thanks for coming, but let's just quickly just check out a little bit of some of the stuff that you have been working on. I'm going to play this video real quick. All right, so that is the Tesla takeover. So obviously, this is all happening on July 29th through the 30th, but you're going to give us a quick snippet. We're going to spend about 10 minutes on, what we can expect from the takeover. Feel free. We prepared some slides on this. Feel free. You can just tell me to click through if you want. I can remove it for the second if you kind of want to potentially introduce yourself a little bit more, and also to just any introductions on the event for this year.
Yeah, sure. A couple of minutes introduction. My name is Kelvin G. I'm the vice president, so partner in crime with John in running the Tesla Owners Silicon Valley Club, but I'm also the executive director, as John said, of the Tesla Takeover, the largest Tesla owners event in North America. So this is our third year running this thing, and it started off as basically a supercharger takeover that we did jointly with a couple of other regional clubs, the Tesla Club SoCal being the primary one that we partnered with. So we took over the Fireball supercharger a few years back, had a great time, and we said, hey, let's 10x this. Let's make this a recurring thing. And so we start to plan this. And so this event, Tesla Takeover, is taking place July 29th through 30th in San Luis Obispo at the Madonna Inn. And it's strategically located so that it's midpoint between NorCal and SoCal. So everyone in California can easily get to it. And but our third year running, we've started to find out that people are driving across the country, out of state, even from other countries. And so we knew we were onto something. And so, this is our third year running. We're expecting around maybe 1,300 registrants for this year's event. And if you want to throw up some visuals, we can walk through what you guys can expect. So first thing is our keynote speaker. We are honored to have May Musk as being our keynote speaker. She will be our keynote for day 2. The woman really needs no introduction, but she's a world-renowned dietitian, a supermodel. She's appeared on many big fashion magazines, Vogue, Glamour, CoverGirl. She was on Sports Illustrated. And of course, she is the mom of none other than Elon, and as well as Kimball and Tosca as well. And so we are honored to have her come on day 2 to talk about the early days, her upbringing, what it means to raise a family of 3 super children, and talk about the early days of Tesla. And I'm going to ask about her opinion about the MMA fight that's coming up. So that's something that everyone can look forward to. She's going to have a meet and greet. So for those who want to press the flesh, take selfies with her, have her sign a copy of her book. We are going to have a 30-minute meet and greet before she graces us on stage. So that is May Musk. If you want to move to the next slide, thank you. We have over 60 cool, unique sponsors and exhibitors there. So everything from accessories to e-bikes to you name it. And so this is just a small sampling of them. So T-Sportline is our presenting sponsor. Our second year in a row, they are our presenting sponsor. So shout out to them. Michelin is our official tire sponsor, so they'll have a great presence there. Holley, we'll talk about Holley in a few minutes, but they are our performance sponsor, so they're coming on and doing something very unique for us. Not seen here, but Tesla is coming on big time. So Tesla Automotive and Tesla Energy, our favorite EV vendor, will be there in a big way. So if you want to go talk to them and see what they're up to, they're going to bring on a lot of vehicles, and the energy side is coming on strong as well. So if you think about solar or power walls, that's definitely the place to be. But as you can see here, we have a lot of cool vendors that you can talk to, including a cool camping expo, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. So yeah, next slide. Speakers, we have a who's who list of Tesla YouTubers and influencers. So obviously we talk about May Musk, but Sandy Monroe is our keynote speaker for day one. We are super excited to have Kim Java come to our event for the first time. Ross Gerber, Gary Black will do a session on the stock and where it's headed. We've got me, Kevin. So you can see this is a really exciting lineup here. We even have a women in Tesla panel. So Amy, shout out to you for joining us as part of that panel. Super excited to have you there, along with our other esteemed female guests. But really all-star lineup. Also, they will have meet and greet sessions. So if you ever want to talk to them, ask them privately a question that you've been dying to ask them, again, do selfies with them. This is a great opportunity to meet your favorite YouTuber and Tesla influencer. And of course, Tesla Takeover wouldn't be the same without the cars. So if you move to the next slide, we've got a smattering of about 30 customized Teslas that will be entered into the super modified car contest. So that will be judged by a panel of judges. And then we also have a separate area called Tesla Customized Showcase. So if you got a cool wrap or wheels or something that you want to showcase, we also have a section about 30 some odd customized Teslas that people can check out. So very creative modifications. So if you want to see what some people have done with their cars, this is one of the highlights of the event. Next slide is other cars. So we are super happy to announce that Aptera is going to join us. So for all those,
this was hard to get.
Yeah,
really hard to get.
Yeah, this is an exclusive, guys. So for those who know who Aptera is, super exciting EV startup, three-wheel, super efficient EV. And their Gamma vehicle will be on display at Tesla Takeover. This is a model that is not made public very often, so this is considered an exclusive and a real hard get. So they will be featured in the EV showcase area, and they might even allow you to sit in the vehicle. So if you ever want to see an Aptera live and in person, this is the event for you. Of course, our event's called Tesla Takeover, but we feature other EVs. So Rivian will be there. We'll have a couple of those vehicles. Lucid, we have a couple of Lucids. But I'm really excited to talk about the vehicles on the right-hand side of this slide. So Lightship, another exclusive. They are started by a couple of ex-Tesla employees. It's the first purpose-built electric RV, and they will have their prototype and first model on display for you to check out. You can walk in it, look at all the features inside. It's like a transformer vehicle. It basically lowers down into tow mode, and then when you're ready to camp, it pops up like a transformer into camp mode. So super efficient vehicles, got batteries, got solar panels on the top. So if you're ever thinking about camping in a full-size RV, you definitely want to check out Lightship. Cyberlander, super excited about them. First time they're really exhibiting. They have a prototype designed for the Cybertruck, and again, a transformer-like concept will pop up out of the bed of the Cybertruck, so you can camp with your Cybertruck. So come check them out. I believe it's their first time showing this prototype in person. And then Space Campers, similar concept, but different approach. Also using the Cybertruck bed. And so super excited to have them on board as well. So we have a camping expo. So not just those 3 vendors, we have other cool vendors there. So if you love to camp in your Tesla or Cybertruck, then this is the event for you. Next slide. Experiences. So Holly, I mentioned earlier, they have partnered with us to produce a wraparound event called the Holly High Voltage Experience. So if you ever wanted to come and track your car, so maybe you have a Plaid or you want to race your Rivian, we've arranged for a separate offsite location from the Madonna Inn. It's actually taking place at a private airport, private airstrip, and you can basically track your car. So if you want to drag race and time your Plaid, this is the place to do it. So shout out to Holly for partnering us with this event. This is a really cool experience for those performance enthusiasts out there. So this is a no cost add-on. So you just register for Tesla Takeover and just add this as an add-on ticket at no additional cost.
Super cool.
We also have Arcimoto back again, second year in a row they're coming. So you can demo ride their very cool and fun 3-wheeled fun utility vehicle, FUVs. First time we're having EcoQuad come. They have an electric ATV, 4-wheeled ATV. So you can test drive those. Really cool, exciting startup from the UK. Stasic, they're sponsoring our Kids Zone. And so there's basically electric motorbikes for kids. So starting from 3 years and up. And so if you got kids, bring them. It's a family-friendly event. We have a really cool Kids Zone. And as part of that, they can test drive one of these fun electric dirt bikes. And Upco Bikes, they're Australian adventure bike e-bike manufacturers coming back for a second year in a row. You can test drive their really fun e-bikes. And then Ego, coming on for the first year, they make electric power tools. And so electric leaf blowers, power tools, but they also have electric lawnmowers. And so you can actually test drive on our grassy area an Ego sit-down lawnmower. So really cool, fun experiences for you and the whole family.
Yeah, it's really grown. It's pretty insane. I think the first year, I don't even think we had any of this. So it's just no experiences. So fast forward 2 years later, you can have just a ton of fun, drag racing to doing, fun utility vehicles to ATVs to even your kids can be on stuff. And Stasic is actually a Harley Davidson brand as well. So shout out to Harley for coming.
Yeah, and then some really fun surprises and special appearances. So real life Starman will be there, and Michelin Man will be there. So that's fun experiences. That's breaking news. And then this one's I've been keeping this under wraps for a little while, but I'm going to talk about them now. But Elon Goat is a cybercurrency vendor. They will be there, and they have basically built this a monolithic shrine, if you will, to Elon. It's basically a giant, it's the head of Elon mounted on the body of a goat, mounted on an 18-foot trailer. And they will be there promoting their currency. But this is something to behold. So I expect there's going to be a very popular selfie site location. So you definitely want to check this out. So shout out to Elon Goat for coming to Tesla Takeover. Really, really cool part of this festival. Think of it as like a Burning Man festival for Tesla owners. So like John said, the third year running, first year we had, a smattering of 20 some odd vendors. Second year, we actually added a content track. And then this third year, it's a 5-ring circus. I also want to shout out to Joe, who's running our merch, our official merch for Tesla Takeover. You can see him sporting the cap, right? Yeah. Nice. So if you want to pre-purchase your official Tesla Takeover merch, go to TeslaTakeover.com. You can pre-order and then arrive with styling the official merch ahead of time. Otherwise, he will be officially selling the merch on site at Tesla Takeover. So get your tickets, TeslaTakeover.com. Again, July 29th through 30th. Hope everyone can make it.
Kelvin, thank you so much for joining us, informing us on this epic event. I can't, half the stuff we've added this year. It's crazy. Literally, again, we started this event 2021. And so it's truly just awesome, the amount of the speakers that we've gotten, the experiences, the vendors, Aptera, some of even the other EV companies that are coming. So it's just truly awesome. So thank you for all that you do for the club and even for the community. We appreciate it.
Yeah. And that's really why we're doing it, by the way, right? This is a community-run event for the community. And so it's really a love note to the community to bring everyone together. So it's a passion project of mine, and I'm happy to do this for the community. And one last thing before I leave, which is the giveaways. So one of the popular part of the events is our giveaways. We have an insane amount of giveaways. We have over $25,000 worth of giveaways that we'll be doing as part of the Passport program for across Saturday and Sunday. So you won't be disappointed about the magnitude of prizes we're giving away at the event. So again, TeslaTakeover.com. Hope to see you guys in San Luis Obispo in a little over a month.
But yeah, thank you again for everything, Kelvin. So, yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Yep. Thanks for having me. All right.
Great work.
All right. So thank you, Kelvin, for joining us today. We just wanted to do that plug, especially as we get closer. But let's jump into the normal cadence. So this week, it's, as you can see, the stock has been a little bit soft, but overall still up 40%. I do believe the whole market has been down, but I don't really care to necessarily, deep dive into stock performance per se, but just wanted to give a quick shout out to, how it's been doing over the past couple of weeks, as it did have that huge, I think last week it was almost up 60% month, for the month. So just wanted to give a quick view on what that looks like. All right, let's get into it. So big week. Elon Musk met with Modi in New York, who is the Prime Minister of India. And it's not like they just met. I mean, there was multiple videos of Elon initially saying, oh, we would love to see what could happen. We would love to see if we could make some significant investments. And then it's just more like he just continued to double down, like we will be there as quickly as humanly possible. It just, more and more conversations. But I know that we have, on this podcast specifically, we have talked a ton about the, how India is and really, how this could be a strategic location. So I would love to just hear from the panel. What are your thoughts? What does this mean? And how could this even be like a bullish move for them to finally move to India?
Yeah, I'm really curious as what Jeff has to say, because, I mean, for me personally, I don't know that much about India, and I can't think that they would sell a lot of cars there, but I think they could do a great export and manufacturing there. So I'm very curious, Jeff, what you have to say about that.
Oh, thanks. I think you're right, Joe. Actually, they can do exporting from there, but you just start with the 1.5 billion people, protectionist economy. So that means you can't just build your stuff wherever you want and ship it into India. They really want you to set up manufacturing locally to have access to the market, and they also have a great export great export capability. They're used a lot to export to parts of Europe, even back to North America. There's great agreements. So this is a good move. This is a good move for for Tesla, and you're also seeing kind of a broader move that's been happening over the last couple of years with global supply chains, where you don't kind of want all of electronics, all of auto, all of medical, minerals. You want everything coming out of one country, China. That's risk. That's risk for the world. Not saying that China can't be a great partner for the world, but there's issues there. There's issues everywhere. So to just from a supply chain fundamental perspective, having a viable alternate source, and India, you can go from minerals all the way to end system level supply chain. It's a good move for Tesla. It's a good move for It's a good move for India. This is a kind of a congratulations to India as well, because when you bring in a leader like Tesla, they're innovators. They innovate in design, they innovate in manufacturing, they innovate in business processes, they innovate everywhere in the company. So when you bring that DNA into your country and you import it, and then you are now participating in it, and now your people are being trained, and those people don't work at Tesla forever. They move on, they do different things, and you're basically up leveling the capability of your workforce and your population. That's kind of one of the fundamental theses of how China operates, actually. So this is a good move for Tesla, for a number access to that population. Also kind of multi-sourcing in Southeast Asia, and it's a good move. And also the timing is important. It's going to take a couple of years to sort all this out, the agreements, develop the supply chain. Tesla doesn't really want to import components, even if India gives them that. They don't really want to do that. So develop the supply chain, develop, the manufacturing model. And guess what? That would be in time for Gen 3. So I think, this is all coming together. The meetings were good. The fact you have heads of state now kind of having those final conversations, they're probably kind of telling their teams to kind of work out the final things, but there's mutual respect here. There's mutual, Tesla respects India and wants access to this market and wants access to the people. And India obviously respects Tesla. That has grown over the last couple of years. So the deal that Tesla can get now is not the deal they could have gotten 2 years ago. This is a much better deal. So Tesla's actually up-leveled, I think, the deal that they're getting, because what they've done in the marketplace. So really good all around.
Yeah, I
Go for it, Amy.
Jeff gave an excellent summary, as I was expecting to hear, and I was really looking forward to hearing what he was going to say about this. And that's an amazing summary. And I think that when we look at the market in India, we keep making the same mistake, even though we say it ourselves. Tesla is not just an auto company. And then we just look at how many autos are they selling. Well, we're completely forgetting, Elon Musk specifically said in regards to India, that will be all three pillars of a sustainable energy future that Tesla is going to be trying to implement there. That's solar, that's battery storage, and then that's EVs. So when you're looking at the current infrastructure, their electricity grid is really not great. It's an enormous opportunity for Tesla Energy, and it's an enormous opportunity for India that can do what many countries did that didn't have extensive landline phones hooked up. They were able to just bypass that step completely and move on to the next step of cell phone towers. And that you're going to see the same thing in India, where they're going to move complete in many regions, and China will do the same. They're going to move completely to a new modern distributed grid, solar, wind, hydro, geothermal energy, and then a distributed energy system and this battery storage, which is going to be a huge, huge opportunity for Tesla. And then when you look at the autos, we have just consistently seen this where Tesla is sold. There's the Tesla stretch that happens, where when a Tesla becomes available, people that wouldn't normally go and buy a new car, people that normally wouldn't put this money in their budget, put this money in their budget, and Tesla's going to be able to very relatively easily balance out the supply and demand in India by using the exports. So, similar to what we see in China, the first beginning of the quarter, they're going to be exporting cars, and then you get toward the end of the quarter, it's going to be for local production. And over time, the exports are going to become smaller and smaller and smaller, and the local production portion of that quarter is going to become much bigger. And India also has a pollution problem in many cities. There's times where pilots have to do an instrument approach, not because of weather, but because the pollution is so bad. So again, there's going to be a huge movement from the populace that we want to modernize. We want to be living in a clean environment. We want to be moving to the next steps of the future. And you have some really highly educated people. You have some of the world's best engineers. You have a really good workforce. Also, things that Tesla always looks at. The biggest issue is going to be the suppliers, which aren't there, and that's where the Gen 3 platform, or even the Tesla Megapack and Energy, is going to be good platforms for products for them to sell, because they require a lot less suppliers. Tesla is doing a lot of those components in-house.
Yeah, no, I think both you and Jeff dropped some great knowledge, but I wanted to potentially even what are some of the biggest gaps? Again, if you don't want to go down this route, we don't have to, but I've been a part of several companies, where they'll say, oh, let's go into India, right? Because there's a billion and a half people there. But, typically a lot of the things that stop you are the crazy tariffs. And so I don't know, Jeff and Amy, if you want to also just even Joe, give your thoughts on, what are the biggest blockers, and why is this, such a huge feat for them to say, hey, we're going to go and actually build a factory, get the suppliers, build the whole vertical integration with the three aspects that Amy had mentioned earlier for battery, solar, and EVs. But just how big of a feat is that to get through, and how painful of a process? Because I'm pretty sure it's not easy. You can't just flip the switch on. And Brazil and I think even Mexico are some of the other hard ones out there. Obviously, they're going to do Giga Mexico, but I just know that from a supply chain perspective, it's not easy to go into India.
Yeah, it's not. And I really appreciate the points that Amy brought up. They're really good. It's not. And it's also, you got to think of the timing aspect of this as well. It takes a bit of time. You can't just you can construct a factory in under a year and get system level manufacturing started pretty quickly on most kind of product lines. But when you have to actually build the surrounding supply chain, those input materials. So this is what India has a protectionist economy. So let's kind of rewind back. There are protectionist economies all over the world. And quite frankly, the US hasn't been overly protectionist until maybe recently, what you're starting to see softly with the IRA. And now you're seeing with the CHIPS Act. But, over many decades, you could, you could basically ship from abroad into the US with very low import duties and sell your product here. So you can build in a low cost location, hire your low cost workforce, and ship in. India, they have a protectionist economy. They want you to set up your end-to-end manufacturing there. And what they do is they go by industry, and they analyze the industry, and they look for value add, and they look for what component types should we be building to develop our economy further? What would actually have the most labor content? Which would have the most strategic content in terms of where various industries are going? And they decide look, if you're going to build a smartphone, then we want you to do final assembly on your display module, so they look for those things, and they basically tag various commodities that they believe are strategic, and they want that supply chain there. Or if you say, look, I can't do that, or I need to get my system level manufacturing going at this time, they say, well, great, then we'll charge you there'll be a duty charge, and there's a standard duty, and it changes by year. But yeah, they want to protect their economy, they want to protect their workforce, and they want to strategically grow. So it's a big deal to have this partnership and to have them pulling. I believe they're actually pulling Tesla in, because when you look at look at how far and how fast China has moved, both on the demand side in terms of how many EVs are on the road and that conversion from EV to from ICE, and look how quickly they've moved with the number of EV manufacturers, design and manufacturing that's occurring in China. They've created an entire high-tech industry, tons of labor, tons of innovation, a place for their college graduates to go and work, inside of their country. So India sees that and they don't want to be that far behind. So go to the global leader and say, let's do a deal. And that's where I think we're at today.
I think everything that Jeff said is spot on, especially the fact about labor and about education. I mean, some of the best innovators in history and as far as tech is concerned have come from India. And so I think you look at things like that and you look at the labor, and everybody's pointed out like how many billions of 1.5 billion people. I mean, that's a huge workforce. You know what I mean? That they can just like get it done. I mean, there was a lot of people in China, and guess what? They cranked that out in 10 months, got the factory up and running, and I think you're gonna see something similar with India once it gets going.
Yeah, they turned a swamp into a factory. Amy, were you going to say something?
Just related to what they were saying. Not only did Tesla moving into China provide a place for the people to go, but China is now, like, I think it is the leading exporter of autos in the world. That switches off probably by month, but now, so they went from not having an export presence at all in auto to having a very strong industry in it. And Tesla was certainly a player. We know that there's a lot of BYD and other Chinese manufacturers that are doing a good job. And then, so India has to be looking at that. And then with something else is just the quality that's coming out of China. Now those cars are being shipped to Canada. And one of the first people that looked at the car in Canada was like, this car is tremendous quality. Like, they would never have been a panel gap story if all the Teslas were being produced in China, because they're absolutely perfect. So they not only was it a new industry for them that they're now excelling in, but they're excelling in it in quality. And what country in the world doesn't want to be developing new industries and doesn't want to be developing new economic booms? And there's a difference between Mexico's protectionist economy and India's protectionist economy, just from the Tesla standpoint of ease of doing business, because in Mexico, Tesla suppliers are already there. They already have factories right next to Tesla's chosen location of the factory. So it took away that supply chain aspect. And in India, Tesla suppliers are not there and they don't have factories. And so one of the encouraging things we heard before this meeting between the heads of state was that India was asking Tesla, well, how long is it going to take for you to get your supply chain up there? And what type of concessions do we have to give you on supply chain components, and for how long? Which is really encouraging when we heard that. The other thing that would be encouraging is if India did set up some type of incentive structure for their society, like we have in the US with the IRA, toward moving toward the sustainable energy future, which the whole world needs to go to. And we're seeing more and more governments realizing that incentives are really powerful and they really do kickstart this transition.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I think, Jeff, you always say, I always steal your quote, but you always say, all of these meetings are set up, with a specific purpose. And based on even some of the stuff Amy was saying, it's like, okay, if getting your suppliers is going to be an issue in India, specifically all of them, or maybe you can bring a couple of them, whatever the situation is. But the Gen Platform 3 is obviously going to remove a ton of suppliers and make more of it in-house because of the cost reduction and, all of the way that the structure is going to be. So it's going to be just really, really incredible to see, or the timing is just impeccable. Like, they knew that they couldn't go there probably 5 to 10 years ago because it just wouldn't make any potential financial sense. But now they're doing it because they have the structure of the car that they're going to build that could make the most sense. Like, if you can't bring your full network in, you can only bring a couple of pieces in. how do you strategically set that up? And it's pretty mind blowing just to think, based off of the discussion we're just having, just how perfect the timing is to go into India. And then also too, the other thing that you had mentioned, Amy, was the Tesla stretch. I believe it was someone, I don't know, I haven't validated the stat, but there's close to like 1 million millionaires in India. And so it's just one of those things where even if you got a certain fraction of that on top of just potentially, everyone outside of that category, there's still a huge opportunity.
Yeah, and thinking about the Tesla stretch, you could just see with the amount of sales that the Model Y has versus the Toyota Corolla, like people will pay for what they want, right? So it doesn't really, I know people love to say like, oh, they're so expensive and this and that, but people usually they'll make an effort for what they want to buy. And you've seen that with the world freaking leading of Model Y sales.
Jeff, did you have any other input?
No, I said this before. It's worth repeating that Elon is really setting his team up for success, and he's really setting the company up for success. And all of Tesla, they're setting themselves up for massive success. I mean, I know it's hard to describe, but they're at this precipice of now this EV industry is going to grow massively. It's, it went from hundreds of thousands of cars that crossed over to 1 million. And now we're at this point now where you're making decisions now about the year that they're going to be producing 5 million. So you're not going to go from 1 million to 5 million. I can't tell you how this is like life-changing for suppliers, for companies, and for people at these companies. And I've been at a company and I've had a product line where, the suppliers are kind of fighting for your next couple of years of business, and where you have to take meetings at, midnight, because they just want your time. They want to have a conversation with you, and they want to offer you something. They want to so when you see, Modi, when you see these meetings with all the China regulators, you see Macron, you see Prime Minister of Italy, you see all these meetings happening. What's happening below the surface at Tesla is there are thousands of suppliers literally throwing themselves, A, trying to get in the door, or B, existing suppliers that are trying to level up and get a larger piece of that, whether it's a bigger piece in India, or whether it's, the Mexico, setting up their supply chain there. So they're so highly levered. And then that's just the auto business. And then, energy's happening off to the side. And then you've got this bot thing that's kind of hovering over all of this. and if you're a supplier now, I mean, they're prototyping bots now. And I'm assuming within the next 2 years that they want to produce production quantities. It may not be millions, but they want to start producing. So those supplier decisions are happening now. So just imagine those conversations around, hey, do you want access to something that could be 5 billion, 8 billion in volume? We're talking about, hundreds of thousands and millions of cars here. So they have this is why I believe what coming full circle, this is why I believe that Tesla, I think, can overperform in cost reductions and leverage their supply base in a way, again, not hurting them, they're helping them. They're putting them in a great position for the future. I think they can leverage their supply base and get nonlinear performance on cost reduction. Don't want to put them on the spot. I think this first half is going to be, difficult. It's going to be a trough, but I think I think they can recover in a more accelerated fashion, but let's see.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, before we get to the next topic, can we just take a beat and just appreciate the fact that Elon is globe-trotting to make these things happen? Over the past few weeks has just been insane. No diss to Jeff Farley or Mary Barra, but you just don't see them doing things like this, shaking hands with world leaders and going, you just don't see it. So I just really want to take a beat and appreciate the fact that he's doing everything he can to make the next 10, 20 years amazing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah, that it's been impressive. Not only that, but the PR campaign that he's been undertaking by doing so many interviews with people from all different biases and perspectives, and just putting himself out there and being just available. And then people see the Elon Musk that we always saw, that wasn't skewed perceptive by the narrative. And when you see somebody that's being authentic, even if you don't agree with them, you always appreciate the authenticity. Now, I tend to agree with most of what he says, but it's still like it's been so rare in our society that people don't check what way they're supposed to think and then decide what they think, and the people that just operate from a deep sense of principle and integrity are appreciated. And now people are getting a chance to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely in a situation now where, I think in the US, I think maybe I don't want to say that the US is starting to see him for who he is. Or maybe it doesn't, I don't want to say that, but it's just the mainstream media, they just run him through the mud. But you just got to get a pulse. Like when this guy goes to France, when he goes to Italy, when he's on the phone with the people of Mongolia, obviously, when he met with the Prime Minister of India, you just know that there's just a certain respect there because they understand what Tesla, SpaceX, now even Twitter, Boring Company, all of these, the whole Muskonomy of companies that is growing and will continue to grow. I think it's .ai or X.ai. Like there's so much that Elon can bring now. And I think people are, whatever beef they've had or, whatever political view they may have, they don't care about that. They know that at the end of the day, that if they could bring a company like Tesla into their economy, it could be, as Jeff was saying, life-changing for some of these businesses, for some of these families. And I think it's a bit of fresh air to see that when here in the US, like, some of these allegations will always come out. And it's always one of those things I'm like, I'm going to wait till Elon comments on it. And there may obviously be a time where he can't, but he's also going to be one of those people that even if his lawyers don't tell him to speak out about something, he still will. If it's the right thing to do because he's convicted like that. But it's just one of those things where, you for years, we've just seen all this fake news and FUD, and we're seeing it last year. And so now this is just like a year. It almost feels like 2021 again, where he's like Time Person of the Year or something, where it's just like he's just going around and, really just locking down deals or meeting and having key conversations with people so that he can think of, step 2 and 3, because the Cybertruck is obviously finishing and they're going to be on to the next 2 products that they're hopefully going to announce and release. But it's just the world, if the US won't get it, the world will see it and is seeing it, and you're seeing all of those meetings happen. And so if the US continues to overlook it, I mean, we'll see what happens. Last comment about India, but, with China and all the friction, I know Apple has faced a lot of friction there, given, I think some of the lockdowns and other things that they have. So they've now, I believe Apple has moved, or is in the process of moving everything over to, or not everything over, but a decent amount of stuff over to India. So it's just one of those things where it's important also as Tesla thinks about that as well, as things can change in China and really anywhere, but you always want to have a another option. And so India is obviously a great one on that. All right. And then so, just jumping into the next topic, I really wanted to make sure that we covered that, obviously, in fairly in depth. But the dominoes continue to fall. This week we had Rivian and make their announcement. That was really a surprise. Of course, Lucid is holding their breath given the history that Tesla and Lucid have, but I think they're still continuing to explore things. But you have Rivian, who came out this week. Hyundai, I think, just wanted some PR, so they were like, "Hey, we're considering it." And then one thing that I put it behind the headline from Reuters, but specifically ChargePoint put out this tweet that it's like they've been developing a solution for NACS since 2022, and it's actually in the next couple weeks they're going to start actually sharing out full details on a product lineup for NACS. So at this point, you have to adopt it. There's no doubt about it. Like, you're not going to see, I mean, I haven't heard anything from Electrify America or some of these other companies. But at this point, the dominoes are going to continue to fall, and there's really nothing you can do to stop this train that's moving. I don't know if any other comments on that, but we talked a lot about this last week as well. So one thing I wanted to skip around on, so I'm gonna just because I think, if you have been watching this at all, it feels like Twitter has just been non-stop Cybertruck. And I'm gonna play this also. This, I labeled the sources, but
Tesla Cybertruck is being seen all over the Bay Area and Mountain View and Palo Alto today. They are going through extreme testing. Can't wait to see these on the road.
yeah, so it's just like shout out to the sources on those. But as we've seen, it's just they're everywhere. I think I even added, Joe sent me this one in the top right. They're just being seen all over the place. And, I feel like when I was seeing this many Model Ys, that's when it was like just it felt like matter of weeks. Obviously, I know they haven't even started production per se, or nothing that I know about. But, I don't think I've seen so many prototypes. It went from 2 to 15, and only God knows how many now.
Yeah, East Bay Carbon had seen had the two camera wraps. So, yeah, I mean that's just like, and then there was a single one on another truck, so that's like 5. Like, it was crazy. That photo that you have in the upper right came from a Gregor truck, by the way. He sent it to me on Twitter.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, I mean, my guess is with 100% certainty, a mass production isn't a one-day event. So it kind of, everything happens in stages. So, my 100% certain the whole electrical supply base has been up and in production. Those suppliers are building components, and they're sending them inbound to Tesla. It's definitely starting in July, right, with the next quarter coming up. And then I would assume all inbound mechanical suppliers that are outside of the 4 walls of the factory, they're in production. They're on their final tooling rev, and they're basically getting their tooling up to rated capacity, meaning getting to rated yield and getting to rated velocity. And I would anticipate that they would be doing a low volume, number of production cars, potentially starting in July, definitely August. So, we'll see. There's a lot of people watching this, so I think it's kind of great. There's a lot of people that kind of are trying different ways to kind of watch this. So I think you're going to see more sightings. These sightings are, they're synonymous with increased activity on the test side, final road testing, reliability testing, and just getting, product from here to there to do testing. So it's really synonymous with that. Then you'll start seeing more road testing with just regular, cars that aren't necessarily going off road. And then, yeah, you'll be rolling into production. So it's exciting.
Yeah, I think, you can just see the enormous amount of excitement. Any new video of the Cybertruck goes up on Twitter, and it's got a couple 100,000 views in minutes. If the amount of interest in the Cybertruck is really fun to watch and incredible to see, and I am just as fascinated with it. And something to keep in mind is I anticipate we're actually even going to see more test vehicles than we did with the Model Y, because of the uses that the Cybertruck is meant to be a heavy duty work truck. It's meant to be able to go off road. It's meant to be able to do all these things that a Model Y wasn't designed for, and they need to test all of those different use cases. We already saw it getting off a airplane in New Zealand for the winter testing. So it's all really good signs that it's coming up quickly, but this testing process might take a little longer than with the Model Y, just because this is a bulletproof truck designed to really do a lot and maybe even float. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just going to show this comment. I couldn't resist given some of the comments that we had this week. But Cybertruck is only for Silicon Valley, not a real truck, according to Jim Farley. So thought I would just shout out, but it's the amount of hype. I believe even Joe, I don't remember the final impressions, but on you had some photos that you posted, and you got over 5-6 million views within like 10 hours. It's just,
yeah, it was nuts. You know what's funny about that comment from Farley is that so Farzad had a clip from the old Microsoft guy. He was talking about the iPhone and about like what he literally said the same thing that Farley said, like, oh, we're not worried about the iPhone. It doesn't even have a keyboard. How are people going to email with that? You know what I mean? It's just like,
Oh my gosh.
it's like we make phones for real
Yeah.
people doing business, and you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's so oh man, the history
Yeah.
will not be kind to people who are.
Yeah, it's just I was shocked by that comment, to be honest. Like, you know, it just felt like, you know, as you said, it's just one of those things. Like, there hasn't been more hype over a vehicle. I mean, people actually, I posted that video that I showed earlier on TikTok, and the great thing is that people are still don't think this thing's coming. And obviously, don't get me wrong, it's been 3.5 years, but they also don't follow Tesla like we do and understand, you know, all the stuff and headwinds and COVID obviously happened. But it's still wild that people don't believe that this is the real deal. This is going to be, in my opinion, the ultimate work truck, because I think when I'm driving an F-150, if you look at some of the Lariat versions and other things, you don't want to actually get any dings or dents in it. This is going to be at the same cost as the high-end F-150s, but the difference is you could throw a rock at it and it's like not a big deal. So I really think it's just people clearly don't understand what this is going to mean to the trucking industry and the huge shift that I think it's going to really bring a lot of these companies that have been, you know, the king of trucks, really just going to knock them off their stand.
Yeah, I won't defend the state. Oh, sorry, Amy, please.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I won't defend the statement. I'll just say that he has to say that. And the reason he almost has to say something like that
Yeah.
is because this is Ford. This is their high volume, high margin. They own this space. It's, you know, several 100,000 per year. You know, it's double, by the way, through the registrations in the US, it's double the Model Y registrations through the first 4 months of this year, Ford F-150s. So that he has to say that. But what's happening in the background is terror. And the reason there's terror is we don't know the specs of the Cybertruck. We have a very experienced CEO who said this is going to be a major product winner, Elon, who said this is going to be an unbelievable product. He knows the specs. He knows he had to cook this thing longer than anticipated, battery supply, other things, and they just kept adding to the product. So I think they're terrified, and they have to make statements like this to kind of rally their base, their dealers, people. You know, they have to make these kind of statements, but I think under the surface, they're terrified.
I'm glad you went first, Jeff. That perfectly led into what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think it's a little bit of just like the NBA trash talking, you know, like it is incumbent upon him to do a little bit of it. I was still disappointed when I saw it because I have been really liking Jim Farley a lot, and it just seemed like a step backward from the cooperation that I think that Ford is going to need to have with Tesla to be able to move in the future. I mean, I really think that Tesla is going to be the lifeboat to the sinking Titanic that it represents legacy auto. And that if they can license Tesla's operating system, if they can license the superchargers, if they can license the AI and the FSD, legacy auto will survive and they'll be profitable, and all those people won't be out of work. So I was disappointed from that perspective. I thought he was going to have to do it. But furthermore, like when you look at a truck, and Jim Farley is one of the people that's called this out, the build efficiency that Tesla has, you know, that the Lightning had the extra kilometers of wiring that they didn't need. And we know that Tesla is moving toward even bigger castings with the Cybertruck, the 48-volt wiring. They're removing all these parts. And what that means when you own a car is it's much cheaper, is going to be much cheaper to build. I think the price point is going to surprise people, where the Cybertruck actually falls in, because Tesla has just been refining their powertrain, removing parts everywhere they can, improving their tech, improving their build. Even though it's a new product, it's there, and they're going to smartly sell the higher terms first, you know, everything that we've seen in the past. And then Jim Farley's talked about just like the advantages of the controllers and everything else. And that means a more reliable car when you're using it, something that doesn't break, something that you know when you have a job, an important job, you're just going to be there on time. Your truck is going to be just your silent partner doing whatever you need it to do, and you're going to get your job done, is really, really important to a professional who's using it as a work truck.
Yeah, I think so too. Like John mentioned, like the Lariat and those things like that. Like, and you talked about the price of the Cybertruck. The Lariat is like an $80,000, you know what I mean, F-150, and I think like they even have like over $70,000 trims for the even the Raptor, which is like their like small little sport truck. So,
Can
well,
even
not
go
small,
higher,
but
like 90.
yeah, like I mean, it's
Matthew DLR like has one, and he has it like specced
yeah.
out. I think he said it's up to, you can get it up to 90.
Yeah,
So
no, that's just wild, man. Like, and you throw that in, and you look at like fan belts and oil change. I mean, we all know, right? And
yeah,
not in the fuel cost, like it's just that's just wild to me. You're gonna spend
yeah.
90,000 on that, and then still have to freaking put gas in it. Like that's crazy.
And I think my understanding is, we talked about the extreme testing that it's going through, probably New Zealand, the winter testing that it's going through there. But they've had, my understanding is extreme testing specifically on the suspension, making sure that this can be like an outdoor car that you can literally like run through the mud or run through sand dunes like we see out in Pismo Beach specifically. There's just making it like the ultimate sports and outdoor car. And I think they've even alluded to the amount of accessories that they're working on that coming out. I was about to say something, but I have to shut my mouth. But long story short, just the amount of stuff that they're going to be doing on the Cybertruck is just going to be pretty insane, just to think about all of the accessories and everything else that they're going to release. So I couldn't really be more excited about that. Some of the other things that just some other, I think, indicators in the market. Hopefully this image, clearly I didn't put the font size up enough. So, but long story short, cars.com released a ranking for 2023 on most American made. And literally the funny thing is it's the top 4 cars. I don't know why. I don't know if they put out this chart every year. They probably do, but I don't know. For some reason, I don't remember the previous years. But this one's on my radar, and it's just, again, even the top 5 through 10 aren't even any American cars, which is just ridiculous to me from my perspective. So,
it was similar last year too. You didn't have the S and X on it because they were like they weren't full production yet. It was 3 and Y were at the top, but yeah, it was the same. It's sad.
Yeah. And then here, hold on. I have to loop back. And then there was a couple of other things that happened as well. So if you look here, we have the Model Y is now the best family car specifically for new families. Again, Auto Trader giving them these accolades. So not only is this like, that's the thing is that not only is this the best selling car in the world, even I think through the first 4 months of the year, it's the most American made, and it's the best car for, new families. So we're just continuing to win all of these awards, and, Tesla's name is continuing to get out. And the good thing is as we've seen, Tesla's running their social accounts a lot differently than they had historically. Because if they had been doing some of these like posts like, hey, we won this title back in, 2018, I know, and this is, there was a lot of scare, at Tesla for the fact that if they put out like, hey, we won this award, it would be more of like they're putting that information out because there's a demand problem or, something else is happening. But now it's about getting the word out about how amazing your vehicles are, especially once you hit these like huge production milestones. But yeah, if there's any thoughts on that, feel free to just jump in.
I have a thought related to what you just said about the social media, because this week we saw a new Tesla social media account, which was Tesla AI, which was enormous because Tesla is an AI company, which people don't understand. And related to that, they dropped some information that we did not know, which is Dojo is already doing useful work. that Dojo is going to be in production in just July, like a month from now. And Dojo version 2 is moving from being this highly specific AI solution for Tesla and their training of video to something that could do more generalized work to set it up more for that AI licensing as a service. So there was an enormous amount of news coming out on AI and Tesla's AI specifically this week. And that was all related to what you just brought up, John, of Tesla's social media being run completely differently, where Tesla AI dropped all these videos. They stated that they were doing it for recruitment, that don't you want to come here and work on all this because these are the problems that we're working on. And then they got a lot of interaction with Elon Musk on any of the posts related to AI to promote exactly how ahead Tesla is. One of Elon Musk's quotes is, even AI experts are going to be surprised at how advanced both Tesla software and AI software is and AI hardware is, which is just an incredible quote. I'm like incredibly excited about all of this, and I'm so glad they have the Tesla AI for me to follow now.
Yeah, I was joking. Every time outside of the country specific handles that they make, every time they put out a new handle, it's like a new company starting, or at least it's giving thought to the fact that there's this huge part of Tesla that you could easily forget. But yeah, I don't think there's, and you've mentioned this before, both, I think Jeff and Amy, you both mentioned this before. There's, I think Google's the only one that does both hardware and software. But more importantly, like, who is really outside of like Waymo and Cruise, who's using like real time, obviously I know even Boston Dynamics, they have a bot, but like, there's just no one else that I can think of that is leading from a general autonomy perspective, or just being able to be anywhere on the planet, or even in the United States. Like if I'm in Nebraska to Florida to Texas, even here, I can just turn on autonomy, and it's working real time and feeding all of that data into the system. And you have that same computer that's going to be used for a robot that's going to be able to deal with real life things, but instead of dealing with like, kids running into the road or dealing with deer coming to the road, it's going to deal with like sidewalks, walking over eggs, or walking, maybe people sleeping on the ground, or or walking around a factory and, or building the machine that builds the machine. So it's one of those things where it's just pretty mind blowing to just see all this stuff happening.
Yeah, John, I think all those accounts, I think it was great that Amy brought that up. Those I agree with you. I think they are businesses in the making, or have really on the outside, what we see versus what's happening on the inside. They're actually very mature in what they're doing. So you see Tesla supercharging, you see Tesla Energy, obviously Tesla Auto, or the main Tesla account, and now you see Tesla AI. I believe these businesses will all not only be producing product and shipping internally to Tesla, but they'll be eventually all shipping product that goes external to Tesla and is sold to others. Tesla, this right now, I believe this is kind of the ground floor of them building these solutions, whether it's hardware, software, or services that they'll eventually be shipping outside of their company.
Yeah, exactly. The next topic I thought we could get into, and I'll probably lean, on y'all to kind of deep dive into this. This is something I think, Amy, you even sent. So we heard earlier this week, obviously, about the duck curve, specifically a French-based renewable energy and storage developer. I'm going to say this wrong, Neoni or something, is to build a massive 4-hour battery in Western Australia after securing a landmark contract designed to solve the growing solar duck curve problem in the world's biggest isolated grid. So I believe it was something like $390 million contract, which is the equivalent to like 8,500 Model Ys. Shout out to Sawyer for breaking that simply down. But yeah, I mean, I know, Amy, you had a in-depth post about the solar powered duck curve, but this is just a huge win. Again, in the most needed areas, Tesla is winning, and people are realizing that.
Yeah, let me just briefly describe what the problem is and how what the Tesla solution is for it. So we know that Tesla the mega packs have been used for grid stabilization functions. So in the United States, we have all these peaker plants, and they're out there for exactly what Texas is experiencing this week with this massive heat wave that they have, and everyone wants to turn on their AC, and then you get all this demand on the system, and we're familiar in practice of what happens when there's too much demand on the system. We know that too much demand on the system creates a blackout, but we don't necessarily understand why too much demand on the system is creating a blackout. And that's because a system is working on the stable frequency on when the electricity is being pushed out to the homes. And if you have too much demand on the system, then it's causing that frequency to drop, and it drops to such a level that you get a blackout. What's happening with a solar duck curve is the opposite problem that never occurred to us. It always seemed like you have solar on your roofs, and now people are helping out the grid. And isn't this only a good thing? Isn't it only a benefit? And we never understood, and this post brought it out to many of our attention for the first time, that actually too much electricity is the same type of problem as too little electricity to meet the demand. When you have too much electricity, what happens is rather than that frequency dropping below the limits of that stable frequency range that the utility wants to see, it's increasing high above the limits of that normal stable frequency range that the utility wants to see. So the power plant protections are bringing the power plants offline to protect them. So either way, you need this stabilized frequency. And that's one of the things that we understood that Tesla was doing. But we really didn't appreciate, if you have this isolated grid like they have in Western Australia, in the middle of the day, they're getting negative demand for electricity. There's so much solar rooftops without people also having the power packs at their own individual houses to store the electricity in, that they're getting negative demand during the day. And then as soon as the sun's going down or the temperatures are changing, then you get this rapid increase of demand, and the grid cannot possibly accommodate it. So what the Tesla Megapack battery is going to do is they're going to, during the day, take in all this excess electricity that the power plant is producing, so it can just keep producing it when demand is low, and over a 4-hour period. And then over that 4-hour period at night, when the demand spikes, they're going to provide that electricity back. So we always kind of understood that was going on, but we didn't understand the absolute need of it, that you cannot actually function as an electricity grid without something to stabilize these frequencies. And that's where the fact that Tesla isn't just a big box of batteries, but a smart box of batteries becomes immensely important, because you have to be able to turn on the battery in milliseconds. It's fractions of a second that this power needs to come online and stabilize the frequency. And one of my points is we are familiar in our house with this concept as well. What do we have next to all of our computers? Surge bars. Why? Because we don't want our computers to be fried if we get a spike in electricity. So we understood all these concepts. We just never put them together as a Megapack use case before, but this purchase made it really clear of you cannot actually get to a sustainable energy future and have solar everywhere and this intermittent style of energy without these batteries that stabilize the grid and stabilize their frequencies and make it actually usable.
I feel like I just had an encyclopedia brain drop right now. So thank you.
I like that example. It was really good.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if we this is some speculation. There's some rumors on this next topic. Again, sorry for the I sucked at the font size, but long story short, shout out to Herbert. He said that Tesla is in the process of buying Rivian wireless charging for both electric vehicles and robots. So that obviously is a huge win in a bunch of various ways, but would love to get potential thoughts. And even, I don't know if you have thoughts on the legitimacy of the article and how, if this is going to happen or may happen.
Worst kept secret ever. That kind of reminds me of when Tesla bought that Canadian capacitor company. It was like you really didn't hear about it. Then the website went offline, and here we are with the Plaid S and X, and like all that stuff happened right after that with the battery production. But yeah, I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about that.
Well, we saw it was the Easter egg at Investor Day, the charging mat underneath the car. So we know that this was something that Tesla has been wanting to do. You can definitely see the use case for robots and for robotaxis to not have to do plugged in charging. And as a general rule, Tesla does not buy companies if they can do it in-house. So what that tells us is, even though startup is relatively recent, they've had some breakthroughs, they have some patents, and they have some tech there that for Tesla is highly appealing, where I think Tesla feels like they can get a huge advancement. That was the case when they bought Maxwell for the DBE process, and that most of their acquisitions have followed the same line. What do you think, Jeff?
No, I those are great points. I was just going to add, I like how you just put the whole connector conversation into context of like, if you jump to this, you're not going to be having a connector conversation eventually. And this, when you think of tech like this, you always have to think like 10, 20 years ahead. And 10, 20 years from now, we really shouldn't be plugging in our devices. You know, these transmitters and receivers and wireless charging should get better and better. Those efficiency should improve. There's heat issues involved. So there's a number of things to work through. There's a lot of engineering behind this. But just 10 to 20 years from now, we shouldn't be getting out and play, even though that's not a big deal. And it's a huge jump from going to a gas station to now you charge your car like a smartphone. But the next jump we'll be wirelessly charging our cars. These pads will be everywhere. The efficiencies will be really good, and you won't have these, connector snafus of like, do I have the right connector or not?
Yeah, it's really as I think. Or sorry, Joe, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say real quick. I think that the charging on the pad was a foreign concept. Like back, I mean, I remember that even like a few years ago, Porsche had it, or VW anyway had it for they were looking at it for something, or Mercedes or whatever. But I think it was hard to do with the 12-volt architecture. I think with the 48-volt architecture, I think that's going to lend something to where the induction is like a lot easier to manage and probably charges at a faster rate. And all I thought about when this happened was that Snake video charger, like years ago. It was like 10 years ago when they had that arm, and I was like, there's no way they're going to put these at every freaking charger for for the robo taxis. But you know what you could do? Lay out a pad, simple, easy, and you know what I mean. So I just think that's got to have something to do with it.
Especially with the solar generation that they'll have at most of these superchargers, and potentially even dropping megapacks there. This definitely could be one of those things where, again, you have full vertical integration on just throwing the pad under the cars. Because I don't think, as you said, even the superchargers, right? Imagine as more and more cars as more and more cars become EVs, I mean, you can start seeing like Walmart parking lots, a quarter of it blocked off. It's just all charging pads, or, potentially even the new gas stations. They become, well, obviously we know the gas station currently is the Tesla supercharger network. That's the closest thing to the next gas station, right? And they're all centrally located. So just imagine more and more parking lots are going to change, as they already have. You go to any modern school in the US right now, most of them have like solar covers, at least in California. And it's because they're charging or utilizing it for the school campus to offset their electricity bill. So I could just see, like, again, they're just thinking of the future. And as I think it was Amy that said this, like, if it's not necessarily something that they can do in-house or something that can help accelerate it, they're definitely going to buy into the technology. But yeah, it's just those connectors, the automated ones. If you think of robo-taxis, just imagine, at the airport, you have two different spots, right? You have the cell area where you just obviously hang out, but, maybe there's going to be like an Uber section for just Uber charging and, Lyft charging, but they're all robo taxis, and they just go there and sit and wait in the queue. But when you start looking forward, the possibilities are really endless. Yeah, Amy, go for it.
Yeah, just one last point. I was on a Spaces, and someone brought up a good point that we want to make the equivalency between superchargers and Chevron. It's not quite, because most people right now that have an EV are charging in their home. But that was not even looking at Optimus, and when everyone has Optimus, and there's a whole market of EV purchasers out there that actually don't have a place to charge in their home, and that's why they have not yet bought an EV, that live in cities, that live in college dorms. And people are like, well, yeah, but there's there's chargers everywhere, but these chargers, you have to move the car off the charger. So if you're going to be in class for 8 hours and the car is going to be charged, you can't leave the charger there. It's hard to run back. So something like these mats where charging mats is going to open up a whole new segment of the society that's going to be able to buy EVs. And then it's also going to make this charging business bigger than it is when you currently look at who has purchased EVs.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's everything's going to be hooked up to some type of wireless charger at some point. It feels like, as far as like anything that we use on a regular basis. But yeah, those were the main topics of the week. Obviously, there was probably a couple of stories here and there. So, I just want to give a shout out to Kelvin joining at the beginning of the call. I think he's actually still with us. So, hey, welcome back. But yeah, so thank you for joining, Kelvin, for dropping all the Tesla Takeover knowledge. And then obviously he's at KG 2Es on Twitter, so give him a follow. But really, just thank you to our regular hosts. This podcast would not be what it is without each one of you. So again, all of their Twitter handles are in the description. But of course, the Prez Joe at SJV Tesla.
Everyone should go on to Twitter right now and look at Joe Tegmeyer's video. Pictures he posted. There's 2 Giga castings that are in production. So I just want to say that real quick.
And then we have Jeff at the Jeff Lutz, just always dropping tons of knowledge for us as well. So give him a follow. And then Amy as well. Thankfully, she's in town this week and not even in Singapore. But yeah, just thank you, Amy, so much for joining this week. She's at SF3_ Tahoe. So give her a follow. But yeah, thank you for watching the Tesla Beat podcast. We just wrapped up week number 13. So it's been just fun. And we appreciate you joining us this Friday morning. See you, everyone.